Good morning, hello, and welcome to marketing, branding, and getting the sale. We are here, myself, Stephen, and Jess, and this is our final live of the year. And wow, what a year it has been! And this is our year in review. We're talking about, what have we learned personally, professionally, business-wise, and we're going to share that with you as well, and also sharing the successes. It's not just about the lessons and mistakes. It's about actually what worked, for us. And these are things we want to do. So, but just in case you don't know who we are, let's just do some quick intros, and then we will dive into today's topic. Now, before we do that, if you are listening live, please put hashtag live into the comments. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. And by the way, if you want to ask any questions or comment with anything after the fact that we're live, we will respond to those as well. So great. Jessica, do you want to kick us off with a quick intro?
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jess. I make businesses more scalable, more profitable through building a compelling brand. So I do that with my clients through taking them through a 6-step brand loyalty process, which gets them more customer retention, customer loyalty, which increases their sales and profits. So if you want to know a bit more about that, then please drop me a message or drop me a comment and I'll send you a video explaining the 6 steps. So that's me, Jess, and I'm a brand consultant.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jess. Stephen, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS Limited. I help people make appointments, cold call, and prospect on behalf of those companies that don't like to, don't want to, or don't have the resource to do so internally. So afraid of picking up the phone? Then make one last phone call me up, and I will take care of it all for you. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Stephen. And I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I can help any business owner to find at least an additional 50K in only 50 minutes or less. Want to know how? DM me asking, or comment below asking for the 5 steps video. That will show you exactly how I get to do that. All right. So let's have a look at, I'm thinking back to the beginning of the year, and the big thing for me at that point was Clubhouse. Do you remember those days? when we were there. So hey Brian, hey Jean, thanks for joining us. But yeah, do you remember Clubhouse? And in fact, that's actually how these lives that we started doing, they came from us doing this on Clubhouse. So I just want to ask, Jess and Stephen, what were your initial thoughts around Clubhouse and that whole experience?
I'll go first, Jess, if I was about to speak. So if that's okay. So I really enjoyed it. It was kind of old school. I think we get caught up in the new modes of social media and being able to, to send pictures and live little videos, etc., etc. So it was kind of refreshing just to go back to just being able to talk without having to worry about sending anything. And it was it just brought me back to having like the town hall type of approach of having a conversation where somebody speaks, you have a speaker, and then people raise their hand, and if they've got something to say, then we bring them up to the stage and they talk. And it was just refreshing to just relax and not have to worry about everything else that goes on around you, because there's no other visual distractions apart from talking, listening, asking questions, and interacting. So for me, at the very beginning, it was great.
Fabulous. What about you, Jess?
For me, I loved it at the beginning. I loved that I could walk around my house and kind of just speak in my phone. I loved the concept of it. I remember walking the dog and being able to listen to certain conversations, and even being able to jump in if I was sat on a bench and had something to say. And again, the sun was out, so we could actually do that. We can't do that now, can we? But then for me, I suppose the further on we did it, as well, with lockdown happening and not being able to do face-to-face networking and anything like that, I think I missed out on that interaction when you can see each other. So for me, doing the lives this way is it gives me a lot more energy for the day than what Clubhouse did. But that could have been a combination of not going out and seeing people as much as I would have done anyway. It was just a factor that I was missing that kind of human interaction a bit more for me.
You're not alone in that, actually. And there was a number of people who I spoke to, and sometimes I had them, like they came on our Clubhouse rooms. There was even some people who I did Clubhouse rooms with, but they just couldn't take to the fact that they couldn't see responses. And interesting enough, they were all the same profile as you, Jess, in terms of being astronauts and being up there with the bigger picture and being very creative and strategic and very visual. And I'm also a visual person, but for me, actually, I didn't mind that so much. I really liked the interaction. I liked the dialogue, the back and forth. And that's I think that's really great. And it's interesting, Jean is saying, Clubhouse, being yourself. Yeah, that's a really interesting thing, because I think when people were spending and like some people were spending a lot of time on Clubhouse, and I think it's hard to pretend to be something, that you're not over an extended period of time. So whereas people can, like, we're live, like there's no hiding anything. It's all here, it's all out there. And that was also one of the things I liked about Clubhouse. But people can do photographs and videos and make them very polished and do them over and over and over again until they get them right. Clubhouse doesn't have that. So I think there was a real kind of resonance with the authenticity of a lot of relationships. On the other hand, there was also a lot of kind of big rooms, big names, like big audiences where, maybe things weren't so authentic. I remember hearing some conversations about a particular, I won't mention their name, but a particular well-known personality who actually was bullying somebody in the audience. And I also had several conversations with people who were hearing things from people, and because they had big rooms on Clubhouse, they were believing them. And but was their perspective the only perspective? And so people often, I think, were being blinkered by numbers, which of course, it kind of it gives an idea around, it kind of implies authority and credibility. Yet actually, one of the things that really garnered big numbers was actually just being on Clubhouse a lot and really participating in a lot of conversations. Now, if you already had a big audience and you brought them over to Clubhouse, that's a different thing. Then, like, you already had that. So yeah, I had some really interesting conversation, and I made some great connections. I actually did get some clients. Clubhouse was quite profitable for me, while we were doing it. But then it just all changed, didn't it, when lockdown ended, and all of a sudden people were like, yay, we can go out, we can be face to face. And so there was a real shift in the dynamic there. So yeah, interesting. Ginger saying too much self-promotion was a problem. Yes, then I'm not sure what the last bit means, Jean, but maybe you can clarify that for us. Thank you. But yes, I think there are a lot of egos, I think we saw there, yet also a lot of authentic conversations, I think, when you kind of went about it the right way. But something really frustrated me about Clubhouse was the fact that only people who were in the room got to benefit from the conversations we were having. And we kept going, oh my God, that was such a great discussion. and not enough people got to hear it. And in the end, that prompted us shifting platforms, coming off Clubhouse. We did look at, could we do it all in one, but it just didn't quite work out. If you know another way of doing it, well, maybe let us know. But and I think this lends to itself to a very powerful business lesson, which is to think about what you're putting your time into and what is the longevity of that. So for us, now that we're doing this as lives, and so we're doing it lives across several platforms, you might be watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, or maybe you're watching this on a blog, because we've actually repurposed this and put it onto a blog so that there's some sustainability around it. And I think it's that whole thing about leveraging our content and not feeling that something we've done, well, okay, great, the people who were in the room that day got to benefit, but what about everybody else? So I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from it. I think two things: just loving those authentic conversations and back and forth, but also just the frustration of feeling that's gone. It's gone. Like no one else is going to participate in that conversation or benefit from the ideas and lessons that were shared. So yeah, that's kind of my big takeaway from it, I think.
I would completely agree as well. The time was something else for me. You know, I weren't spending as much time as what it needed, I think, you know, to really grow that following, not just on LinkedIn, not just on Clubhouse, but having to build a following on LinkedIn as well. And in networking, like you say, you can't just build a following on Clubhouse. You've got to bring a following as well. And spending that time is something that I personally didn't have because I'm a one-man band, really. So I've got a lot of other things to do as well. So for me, that was another kind of reason that I stepped back, and another takeaway, like you say, to plan more. You know, what are things actually going to take? How much time are things actually going to take for me next year? And do I actually want to do them? How do I order them? Instead of jumping in, doing it, and then realizing, oh, this isn't for me. And then halfway through the quarter, jumping onto something else.
Right.
So I would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think one of the things that I did notice was that people who had big audiences, they tended to either be businesses where there were business owners that already had teams that were doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff. So they could spend time on Clubhouse and their businesses were still running. And then there was a lot of people who were maybe earlier on in their business, weren't so busy with clients, and so could afford to spend, well, if it was well spent, could spend time on Clubhouse. I've no idea what they were getting from it, if anything. But here's one of the other things actually that's just occurred to me is I had a lot of people saying to me, oh, Una, well, how did you get clients from Clubhouse? And I went, the same way as I get clients from everywhere else. Positioning, sales process, you know, making offers. And so it was interesting to me that like within a week or two of getting onto Clubhouse, I was getting clients. And it's because the strategy was already there. It wasn't Clubhouse, it was the strategy behind it that was actually making it work for me. So I think it's really easy for us to get shiny new object, particularly for those of us that are, you know, creative. So what we need to understand is that we've got to have those foundational principles in our business in order to be able to make any platform work. You might change the tactics slightly according to the platform, but you need that underlying strategy, I think. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I agree. And something else that that I've kind of taken away on that is being adaptable to changing your strategy, you know, if and when needed. For me personally, and kind of what I've experienced this year. But yeah, having that message, knowing your position, knowing your offering, and being confident and happy in sharing that, giving value. You know, that's the sort of stuff that people are going to resonate and come back. It doesn't matter how you do it. You do it in a way that's more comfortable and more, you know, comfortable for you as a person, but the message and how you're delivering it, that's the thing that's going to hook people in. So yeah, I think that pans across all sorts of business as well, doesn't it? You know, you've got your sales funnels, like you say, your business planning, your business strategy, your marketing, your brand, your sales, all that stuff. You've got to have techniques and strategies behind them for them to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you, Jess. And Una, you know, you and I were talking about this yesterday. Irrespective of how good what we do as individuals, as businesses, unless the person that we're, excuse me, the client that we're helping has a strategy or a process in place, it's all going to be for naught. So, you know, one thing I've learned over the last, however long we've been doing this, it's not been 12 months, has it? However long it has been, is planning is key to the success of any business, and having a strategy in place. Because if you just go at it gung ho, you could be a busy fool. It's all to be for naught, and all that money and time and effort that you've wasted could have been deployed somewhere else to make you more successful. So absolutely, I agree. Planning is absolutely key, and strategy.
Great. And I think actually what we're doing here today is reviewing, and that's one of the things that we did when we were doing the Clubhouse room we were talking about, well, what worked and what didn't work, and we tried a few different things, and then and then we decided, well, actually, I think it's going to work better if we do it, the way that we're doing it now, and it has worked for us, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So it has made that difference. So yeah, I think just making sure that we are reviewing things as well is really key. Like that's part of why we're doing this live, is to get people thinking about, well, what worked, what didn't work. So one of the other things that was key for me in the beginning of the year was I had a family member who was really, really ill, and ended up having an emergency operation, close family member, and that really impacted what was going on for me as well. I think that that was pretty stressful, and I'm someone who normally doesn't do stress at all. So it was quite an interesting experience, because so I had to kind of be able to deal with that, and be able to do business around it, and and then I did take some time off this year, and go and have a couple of visits to Ireland. So thankfully I was able to do that, and that really helped. But also it meant I had to be able to take extended time off, and yeah, I did a little bit of remote work and a couple of meetings and things. Actually, one of the things I came away with from that is, when I go next year, I'm setting things up, and I'm going to practice now, because I'm having next week off. Apart from one group coaching call, I'm having next week off and all over Christmas off. And so it's kind of like a practice of, okay, how long can I be away from the business and my team be doing things? And and right now, like, there's some coaching can happen while I'm not there, but other coaching can't. So have the mindset specialists can be doing sessions with their clients, but the kind of core coaching, that can't quite happen. But I think just the fact I did set up meetings that really maybe could have waited. So that for me was a learning, in terms of when I go and spend time with my family, having holidays, I want that time to be downtime, and just really have those breaks, and when I'm there, be there. So that, I think that was a kind of another learning for me, really. Yeah.
You need to be able to switch off. I mean, we know what's gone on with your family member, and taking time away from the business and leaving it in the capable hands of those around you will also give you the much needed space to be able to focus on other things outside of the business, and that when you come back, it's like a well-oiled machine, and you've put these plans in place and the processes, which you talk about a lot, processes and systems. And we talked recently about do as I say, don't do as I do, but you do that. You practice what you preach by putting these processes in place. And I think for me, I want to be able to get to a point in my business where I can do that and know that it will still continue to tick over, and I can take some time out to recharge, regroup, rethink, and then come back with some fresh innovations to help the business change and evolve.
Yeah, definitely. I think the I'll come back to team and processes and stuff later, but yes, you've got to have those things in place to allow that to happen. So what about you, Stephen? What's been one of your key kind of successes, lessons, etc., from this year?
One of my key successes is finally knowing when to say no. Instead of wanting to take new business on all the time, instead of trying to please everybody, is knowing that it's okay to say no, because it will be for the betterment of myself and my business, that I know that as much as I want to help, the client I want to help is not at that stage in their business cycle where I can be effective and add value. So it's being able to have the confidence to say no. It's not a no for never, it's a no for now, and then come back to them when they've developed their other processes. I've got everything else in a row.
Yeah, I think that's a really key one, and it's so interesting the mindset that has to change around that in order for people. I see this all the time, right? Okay, finish your sentence, Una. I think the process around what has to happen in order for somebody to be able to say no, because quite often they're going through, well, okay, what are people going to think of me? I should do this, I shouldn't do that. What if I get rejected? What if I upset this person, and then I'm going to feel guilty? And there's so many things that can be going on in their mind when it comes to saying no. So actually, I remember when I was younger, my mum had a book called How to Say No Without Feeling Guilty. And what a great title. And yeah, and I think that's it for a lot of people, is being able to put those boundaries in place, and that's what it kind of comes down to. So so how does it feel saying no now, Stephen?
I feel a little bit more. I don't think empowered is the right word, but I'm much more confident about saying no and realizing that it's okay, and it will be. I will benefit from it. Not only will I benefit from it, but instead of rushing into something, being able to say to the client, it's a no, and these are the reasons why. But I want to absolutely revisit it in the future. So I feel a lot better and not as hesitant about saying no now. But
Good.
it's taken me, I would say 14 months, because in the very beginning, I wanted it all. I wanted all the business. And then obviously in sales, you're a salesman is only as good as their last sale. And then you start to overanalyze and doubt, because you're not been as successful with one client as you have with other clients. But there's other reasons behind it, as simple as not being able to get that appointment. There are other things that are going on behind the scenes that have contributed to that end result, or the lack of end results.
Yeah, I think also there's an element of there's also the understanding when you want to say no, and when you want to say yes. So I think there is a bit of working out, well, what's going to be best in this situation. So you've got to get clear on those criteria. And I think in your situation, when you're talking about, okay, well, I set up a business, you're saying yes to every client because you still haven't figured that out yet. So I think that part is actually a normal part of the process when people first do something new, and they need to kind of learn around that. But definitely the faster they get to the point where they're want to and able to say no, the better. And it can be hard. I think it can be hard if you maybe haven't got to full capacity yet, and you're like, oh, I want this money. But then so often the people who you might say yes to, and if you're not going to be able to, if they're not the right kind of client that you can really help be successful for whatever reason that is, then they're taking the place of somebody who could be one of your best case studies ever and actually bring you repeat business over and over and over again. So yeah, so in all contexts, I think being able to say no is a great thing. Yeah, sometimes there's a practical aspect to it as well. So what about you, Jess? What's been one of your key takeaways this year?
For me, the biggest one, I've been doing a lot of personal mindset development this year, especially with the pandemic and everything that's happened over the past 18 months. I've been working a lot on myself, and one thing, my business was really struggling at the beginning of this year. I was really struggling to get them new sales, so new leads in. I've just closed that. Dog's just walked in and opened all the doors as I'm speaking. Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, my business was really struggling. And after reflecting on it, I know why. At the beginning of the pandemic, I had my processes, I had my sales funnels, I knew what I was doing, I had my strategies, I had my plan. And then I just kind of waited for lockdown to be over, and I waited for the pandemic to go. And obviously it wasn't going anywhere, and it's not going anywhere, is it? And it took me a while to shift my mindset and to adapt to how I need to get leads in now in a new way. And that was a big learning curve for me, and it's paid off. You know, going out of this year, I've had a really successful kind of back end of 6 months towards the end of the year, really getting businesses through that 6-step loyalty process, you know, really seeing the difference through it again, and really helping other businesses kind of step up as well. And another thing that's come from there, which I really wanted to mention, was blame. So for a lot of this year, I've been blaming the pandemic. I've been sat blaming lockdown, blaming the way the government is running things, blaming the way that other businesses are you know, being I don't know, unsuccessful during the lockdown. So no businesses that want my service. You know, I've just been blaming everything around me for what was happening to my business. And it took me a while to resettle, you know, my mindset, to think, instead of sat blaming things and kind of almost wishing it upon me, I was having that kind of mindset. I need to shift this and think of a new way to get leads, a new way to get in front of people, a new way to spread the value that I can give. You know, the amount of people that I spoke to over the past 6 months that have said, I wish I knew you sooner. And I think that's, you know, I should have been out there communicating what I do and being in front of people. And instead I was kind of unsure where to put my energy. So that is a big key takeaway from me for this year. And I'm already taking a lot of time this month to still reflect that and still process that, because I want next year to be different. I want to keep this momentum up. So throughout Christmas and New Year, a big kind of task for me is to really reflect on things and really kind of map out what I want out of next year and how I can do it. But yeah, quickly adapting and not blaming is 2 takeaways from that.
Oh, that's such a great one. My kind of one of my biggest turning points in life was reading the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what I really learned there is, you know, that if you don't take responsibility, if you're in that blame game, then you're actually powerless to change anything. So we have to take responsibility and then take action in order to take change. But that, even though it can be scary, I think it's more scary to allow yourself to be powerless by not taking responsibility. So yeah, I think that's a really powerful lesson there. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you can't change anything if you blame and don't take responsibility. That's kind of what I see with that one. Yeah, I think next year is going to be very, very exciting, because you got so many things set up in your business for success. It's just a case of get up there now. Exactly. And you know, that thing of people saying, "Oh, I wish I'd known you sooner." Like, please, 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 you know, everybody, you watching this right now, you're listening to this right now, please think about the people whose lives, whose businesses you actually can help change by taking action, you know, by letting go of all the blocks and negative patterns around being more visible, around taking action, around, you know, putting yourself out there, you know, whatever it might be. People need you. Yeah, people need you. And you know, no matter how you know, we do what we do because we want to make an impact. So I think that's got to be, yeah, a really, really key thing. Fabulous. I think one of the other things for me was about which we referred to earlier, Stephen, when we were talking about when I went away, and about having a team and processes and systems in place. And one of the things I often talk about with people is where, if you imagine you've got, like, because I am a creative person. I work with a lot of creative people. So quite often you've got creatives, and you know, there can be a bit of chaos around there. And then you got kind of the more typically structured people. So let's say like accountants and solicitors and things. So, and if you imagine a continuum between these two, and I always say it's never about kind of trying to turn a creative person into the accountant or solicitor. But it is about moving them along that continuum, you know, more than where they are now, definitely, you know, quite often. And so that's definitely been happening for me this year, as you know. So I started the year with one virtual assistant. I now have a virtual assistant and 2 team members. I've benefited from the government's Kickstarter scheme. And by the way, if you're watching this, you got until Friday to get your applications in, to have a person working for you 25 hours a week for 6 months. Fully funded by the government. So if you want to know, if you want me to send you details on that, DM me your email address and I'll get that over to you. And that has been fantastic. And it's really caused me to have to up level. and we're now, and in fact, as a result of kind of doing these things and having more people in the team, we're having to really up our game in terms of the systems and processes in the business. And that's really good because we've talked before about follow-up, and the fortune is in the follow-up, and follow-up is not something that comes naturally to me. So I've done quite a lot in terms of working on that over the years from a mindset point of view. And it's not following up because I'm afraid of being rejected. It's just, because that's a very process driven thing. And I'm not, my personality is not hugely process driven. So I've used systems and things to kind of counteract that. And so that there definitely has been times where I've dropped the ball during this year and probably missed out on some clients because of it, but just really tightening up everything. So we're actually now changing some systems to make that work better. It kind of really showed the holes in what we had. So I've come a long way from where I used to be, where I don't want to be tied down by anything, and I work completely by intuition, to yes, I utilize and harness my intuition in the business, but having those systems and processes really, really help as well. And I think so that's been a big thing, and we're working on that going into the new year. So I think by the end of Q1, we should have all of that done and up and running, and I probably have made a few tweaks to improve it by then as well. And so I think that's been that has been and is a big thing for me right now in this year, is in stepping up that and actually realizing that I was being a bottleneck in the business, which is something I teach my clients not to be. And I suddenly was like, wait a minute, I'm delegating tasks and activities, but I actually need to be delegating the accountability for those things as well. So that means also up-leveling team members, and kind of just in how we do all of this. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to bring next year, and how that will kind of really help me to scale up, So who'd like to go next? Let's just do another quick one each, and then we better hop off and crack on with our days. Who'd like to go next?
Go on, Jess. I'm going to think of one. I went first last time.
Yeah, so something that I've been testing this year is how to split up my diary. So it's something that I've been working on for a few years anyway, kind of splitting up tasks based on energy and kind of what kind of tasks they are. So, for a quick example, I've got my accounts and my admin is a certain type of mental energy. And then my actual client work, designing, doing strategies, posting on social media, doing lives like this, it all takes different mental energy. So I split up my diary, color-coded for that energy. And actually, I was out for a meal last week, and my friend said, I'm doing this at the weekend. And I got up my diary and was like, I'll see if I can come. And they looked over my shoulder and was like, is that your diary? It's all colours everywhere. It's like a rainbow. But anyway, so I've been trying to test in what works well for me and how can I fit work in and things like that, and to get to be more productive in that time. And something that I've been putting off, kind of similar to you, Una, in a sense of it doesn't come naturally to me to get in front of people and follow up and do that kind of sales and that kind of leads. But what I have been doing this year is trying to do little, like an hour here, a couple of hours there, and trying to do it on a daily basis. But next year, what I'm going to try is maybe having a full day blocked out, or even during a quarter having a week where I'm not doing client work and I'm getting in front of people and I'm spreading what I do and talking to people, just building relationships and building conversations. Probably have to do it more and more often than that, but I'm still working it out. But that is something that I've taken away from this year, and I'm thinking in my head now how I can rejig my diary to be more productive and actually get my work done, rather than saying, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow and I'll move that over to next week. Actually being productive in the time that I put down. Something else that will help me with that next year is I moved house this year. So we've had a lot of things going on there as well. Obviously it's stressful moving in the first place, but then making that place your own and kind of understanding your space. So next year I'll have a lot more space to be able to be more productive and be myself and be focused a lot more. So for me next year, it's looking very promising that I can do more of that.
That's really interesting. We have talked before when we've talked about being more focused, about the importance of having the right environment. And I think that's been an interesting thing for people in the various lockdowns, as if they didn't have the environment set up the way they needed to. So yeah, I think that's great, and it's great to hear you're going to spend more time kind of focused on doing those things. And I think sometimes, I think particularly for those of us that are more creative, having longer blocks of time to really get into something, I think we can struggle to go, oh, there isn't enough time to do that, so I'm just going to do this other not so important stuff instead, because I don't feel I'm going to be able to get into it. Whereas other people, they more suit doing little and often. So we've got to figure out what works for us. And so sometimes it can take time to really refine that. Yeah. So great, excellent. Stephen, do you have something else that you'd like to share, what you've learned this year?
Yes. I need to practice what I preach, because it's all about for me, my whole business is based on outsourcing. Business development, different aspects, and I need to, practice what I preach. I'm trying to do everything myself at this moment in time, and for me, it's time management. I'm spending so much time working in my business that I'm not apportioning enough time to work on it, to develop it and help it grow. So the plan is to take a day out of the week, starting in the new year, and planning on how I can develop, grow, and possibly diversify my offering. With the help of a certain lady in this room. That's my plan, is to do that wholeheartedly. Just take a step back and focus a specific portion of my week to developing the business, because it's been so frantic and frenetic the last 15 months. I've not had a chance to do that, and I realize that if I'm going to be more successful, I've got to take time out and plan and strategize. So it really is about getting control back and figuring out, okay, I'm willing to do less during the week to be able to do more in the long term.
I think that's really powerful message for people to take, because I think quite often people feel, if I want my business to be more successful, I have to do more. And actually the opposite is true. If you want your business to be successful, you need to structure things so that you can do less, but that more is happening. So and that you're focused on the right things, and then that comes back to the 5 steps to 5 steps video that I mentioned at the beginning. So you've got to be focusing on the right things for sure. So yeah, that's great. And it's interesting, isn't it? Like, we've there's one other thing that I wanted to share actually just quickly, is I've introduced some a new offering this year, and kind of just really taking some of the principles that I share with my clients and building that into I guess my offer stack, or value stack as people might call it, value ladder sometimes people call it. And that has done a lot to I've doubled my revenues this year, and that's a large part of the reason. So I've been able to kind of put in several principles around kind of guarantees and how I structure the pricing, but actually having something that's a much higher value. And that has really helped to kind of up level my business. Now, if you're starting out, then, you're often best focusing on one thing until you're able to move along a bit further, and, figure out what your market wants, and then start introducing other things. But don't be afraid to kind of rejig your offerings in response to kind of what's going on. And I think, like Jess said, don't assume that just because we're in certain environments that then nobody has any money to spend. There are plenty of people who are actually doing really well. In fact, I was on a networking event the other day, and I was in a room with two people, and one of them was saying, well, actually business is doing really well, but I feel kind of bad saying that because so many people are struggling. But I've actually heard a lot of people say that. Is that don't assume that everybody is struggling. Yes, certain industries have been very hard hit. Certain individuals, yes, they have lost their jobs. Yet there are other industries where people are struggling to recruit because they're growing so fast. So yeah, don't make assumptions. Look at data, I think is the other thing. And yeah, just make sure that you're don't be afraid to put a higher priced offer out there. If you structure things in the right way, it'll be a no-brainer for the right people. So yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up. We probably could go on for quite a bit longer, but yeah, hopefully you've had some great value from what we've shared here today, and I think it's been a useful exercise for us. This is something I tend to do, like myself and my husband, at some point over the holidays. We actually go through the calendar week by week and talk about what happened during the year, and what we've learned from it, kind of personally and professionally. So a bit more detailed, takes a bit more longer than we have time here for today. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great hearing from you, Stephen, and Jess about what you've learned as well. I've popped some things in the comments that that we've all been saying. I'll just add these last two ones now in a moment. And yeah, please reply, like which are the ones that you most resonate with, or what's something else that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to share that would be useful for other people and for ourselves as well. Please pop those in the comments. And if you found what we've been talking about here today of value, anything that we said has resonated with you, then do please make sure that you reach out, connect to us, follow us. Not in a stalkerish way, obviously, and we're all happy to chat with you and talk about how we all have various ways that we can give you some insights and a different perspective, if nothing else. So yeah, so all I can say now is happy holidays.
Same to you, and to you, Jess.
Yeah, have a great time over the holidays. Enjoy your time off. Do switch off when you're having your time off, however long or short that may be. And yeah, let's look forward to an even better year next year. I always like to be kind of going, let's build upon what we've done and kind of get things going, get going even better. And I think one of the best ways to do that is for us to learn from what we've done, or sometimes not done, as the case may be. Fantastic. All right, bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.